Welcome to the channel. I am Ladewaybac, and today I'll be doing a guide on Millia Rage, which will be up to date with patch 1.10. Millia is a high-speed character, so she has a very fast backdash. She has a very fast dash, so don't be scared to do things like tick throws with her, because she can be very fast with it. And also, she can do a double jump and an air dash, or she can do two air dashes. She can even do things like attack and then air dashes afterwards, so she's very mobile. First up, we have punches. Our standing punch is fairly fast and has a really good range to it. And our crouching punch is even faster, but it has a very short range. So since it's faster, you'll want to use that to get out of frame trap situations, like a soul who's doing multiple slashes on you and you want to mash out of it. This will be your option, and both these punches can be cancelled into a forward heavy slash. Next up, we have our 6P, which is this right here, our anti-air. Now before the patch, one of our options was to do a tandem top like so for a little extra damage, and you couldn't really get anything significant off of it. But now with the new patch, our sliding move here can now be special cancelled, which means we can special cancel into our tandem top, which is that move right there, which adds to our setup situations. Next up, we have our standing kick and our crouching kick. Both should be used to get our sweep, which is our 2 dust attack, 2D, so we can go for our tandem top setups. And both can also be special cancelled or cancelled into forward heavy slash. So now that I've shown you her 2 hard knockdowns, which is the forward punch and the sweep, this is what we will do to set up our tandem tops, our setups, and I'm going to show you the options you have out of doing the tandem top setup. Alright, the first option we have is our overhead, which will be a dash kick. So we'll delay a little bit. We could dash at the peak of the jump, at the peak of tandem top, but instead we just wait a second, then we dash and then do the kick afterwards, and that will count as an overhead, and that's if they're ducking. Or if we want to go low, as soon as we land, we just do our 2K to hit his feet, which we can combo afterwards. Next up, we have just dashing behind them, or you dash and do an attack, or you can do 2 attacks, as you can backdash now and still do her heavy attack, her heavy slash. So if they're blocking that, if you notice that they're gonna block that, that's the option you'll go for 2 attacks, so you can still open them up anyways. And then next we have our turbo fall, which will just immediately go behind our opponent, which is very hard for them to react to. Or then we can just bounce like that and combo afterwards. So yeah, those are the setups we have off of tandem top. So it's basically like playing a guessing game with your opponent. They're never really sure. So don't be too predictable with what you're gonna do. Be sure to switch it up every now and then, or do the same ones because they might think you're gonna switch it up. The typical mind game stuff. Next, we have our 6K, which is an overhead, which forces our opponent into a crouching state, and it can be special cancelled into whatever you want to do. But I say the best option is to use our Lust Shaker, which is this move right here, as you get a pretty good chunk of damage off of that. So it's a great way to finish your opponent off. Or you even Roman cancel it also. So if your opponent is waking up and you're looking for an overhead, you can do a simple combo like that to finish them off. Next, we have our close slash. Now this is Millia's most important button here. This is something you're always going to want to hunt for Millia because you have so many options out of this. So let me show you one combo you can do from this. This is the most basic combo. That's the forward heavy, and then we do that right there. Another combo we could do is we can go low instead. So then follow that with a heavy, then Iron Savior afterwards. And if your opponent is really defensive, you can just run and do it right afterwards, which can be very hard to react to if your opponent is being very defensive. Or, you know, you can just go for a grab also. Another thing you could do is a double side switch. So you can do your close slash and then do a dash afterwards and go for the heavy. And then go for another side switch going the opposite way. Which is something Millia could not do before the patch 110. So go for your sweep, depending on where you land. So if you delay a little bit, then you get that, and then you go for your tandem top setups afterwards. So that's a good thing, another cool way to open up your opponent. And lastly, we can also use our close slash as a anti-air, which is the perfect anti-air because you can get a really good combo afterwards. Here's another combo you can do instead. Next, I'll show a setup for the air combo. So you can end up behind your opponent or in front of your opponent. Thus making like a 50-50 situation for the opponent. So they're not quite sure where you're gonna land. So instead of like finishing your combo for the maximum damage, you can just kind of start it all over again. So kind of like a reset. So we do a little damage here, and then we get behind him, and then get the knockdown again and set him up, and we can just keep it going. So we can choose if we want to land in front of them or behind them, depending on how we space out our dashes. Next we have Far Slash. Not much to say about Far Slash. It connects with Heavy Slash, which I guess is his best use. So a nice poking tool, I guess. And if you're close enough, you can combo that with an Iron Savior. And a special mention to a combo that we couldn't do before the patch, which is our Mirage into Iron Savior, as it will leave us closer to our opponent when we do it that way. So we'll close slash, crouching heavy slash, and now we have ourselves a much fancier combo than what we could do before. And if getting the second close slash is too hard for you, you can always just do a kick instead. And that'll work too. Next we have our heavy slashes. Now our standing heavy has a fairly good range to it. Usually it's used for like to complete with combos. Like I just said previously with the Far Slash to the Heavy Slash. Then you can Iron Savior afterwards. So you can even just do the Heavy Slash to the Iron Savior for a quick little short combo there. Our crouching Heavy Slash, it could be used as an anti-air, but you'd have to use it pretty early. So if you're just reading it a little too late, you'll just get hit or just go even. So you'd have to do it early if you want to use it as an effective anti-air. So normally I wouldn't use that as an anti-air unless you got a hard read on a jump. Otherwise I just use it as a combo extender, like the previous combo that we showed. Next we have our forward heavy slash. It is a 2-hitter, and after the first hit she's counted as airborne. So we can castle into things like Bad Moon and Turbo Fall. So with Turbo Fall, you land immediately and you can just go for a grab immediately afterwards. But be aware that good players will see this coming, and like most of them will expect it. So you won't be able to get this off depending on what part of the tower you're on. But I'm sure most people by now are prepared for this right now. Now, Bad Moon will be like an instant overhead. And why would you want an instant overhead? Because you can Roman cancel afterwards, and do your combos afterwards. And lastly, if your opponent blocks, you could always just go for some chip damage. You'll be in the perfect range for it, and you'll also create some distance between you and your opponent. Now, before I move on to the air normals, I do want to go over the grab. Now, before you could always go for a tandem top and go for your mix-ups there, but your opponent has a lot of options to stop you out of that, like just standing punch or DPs and such. So a safer option would be to go for a crouching punch and then mirage afterwards, as you can end up behind your opponent or in front of your opponent, depending on how the distance you travel. So if I run up just a little bit and then crouch punch and do it, I'll end up in front of them. And if I run the full distance, then I'll end up behind them. So that is going to be really hard for your opponent to read, and then you'll have a nice little 50-50 setup off of your throw. First, for our air normals, I'll go over the jumping punch, which it hits multiple times. It's very fast, and it's pretty much like everybody else's jumping punch. Next, we have our jumping slash. Now, if it has a better range than our jumping heavy, but our jumping heavy our heavy slash can do cross ups and such. But our jumping slash is a further distance. So where a jumping heavy wouldn't hit, a jumping slash would. So keep that in mind when you're landing close to your opponent. Like, just keep in mind the distance so you know what attack to go with. And also, for slash, it's the better option for air to airs, as you can combo afterwards. So if you're going air to air and you know your opponent's gonna jump, you always go for the slash, because you can just get a full combo off of that. So it doesn't even have to be a counter. But if it is a counter, you can land and then do the combo afterwards for more damage. So you get a counter, land, and then you can do whatever combo you want. But on normal hit, you're gonna wanna do the basic air combo. Next, we have our jumping heavy slash. Now we can hit either side of our opponent. So it's something we want to use when we're going for a jumping attack on our opponent, because when it hits, we can go for our crouching kick and our sweep, which leads to our tandem top setups. And usually all three connect. And also, in case you didn't know already, you can, with Millia, you can do the 3 dashes, so you can do 3 overheads one after the other. So that's also very effective. But before I move on though, like, never be too predictable with your air attacks. So you can do a regular jump, but you can also do a dash jump, or you can just do 2 dashes. That could throw your opponent off, or go high and then dash and then do it. So you don't want to always just dash too early and go. You just wait for last second and then dash. So always switch up your timing. Don't be too predictable. Always keep your opponent guessing. Next, we have our jumping kick. Now it's very fast, like your typical jumping kicks. And also, if you're not confident that your jumping slash will win out in the air to air, you just do the jumping kick instead, and then do the dust attack afterwards. And as for the dust attack, I normally would use it just for the combos. I mean, well, with the patch now you can counter, so you can look out for that. So if you're at a distance when you jump, you always look for that, and then you can follow up on the ground. Usually that would land. I believe it would, right? I think you'd have to jump at the same time. Yeah. So you can follow up with that, but I mean, I don't think it would be a better option than slash, because slash has the range to it too. So if you're looking air to air, use your slash, and if you don't feel like that's going to connect, then use your kick. Now, a cool thing about kick is, like, if your opponent is blocking and you have him in the corner or something, and you know you're doing your jumping heavies and stuff, like if you do use a kick, it has a lower block stun, so that it's very quick. So I usually go heavy, then a kick, and then go for a grab afterwards, because the block stun is so low that you could grab like almost immediately afterwards. Next, we have our special attacks. First up, we'll be going over Bad Moon. Bad Moon is a overhead, and it's unsafe on block, so keep that in mind. So normally I would just use it to finish off the air combos. Like so, or for the instant overhead, and yeah, that's typically what I would use it for. Next, we'll go over Capel and Turbo Fall. Now, Turbo Fall has been updated in the patch, so now you can special cancel it into anything. So before, you just have to slide down and you'd be pretty vulnerable. So now you can do things like Capel afterwards, so you can land close to your opponent and then Capel afterwards, and then get a nice little hit off of them. Or you can just Bad Moon. I mean, I'm not sure exactly why you'd want to do that, but you know, it's an option. And Capel is great. It says, like I was saying before about altering your jump so your opponent doesn't know when you're landing, that's your fourth option. So you got jump, dash, Capel, and then you can still do your air attack afterwards. So it's a great way to alter your landing time, so to keep your opponent on their toes. Next up, we have our Tandem Top. Now, you already know about the Heavy Slash version, as you know, we use it to get our combos off and our setups. But we also have the faster version, which is the Slash version, which can be canceled from Mirage, so for more distance. So it's pretty much like a real projectile now, if you do it that way, because it has quite the distance now. And if you do it from close, you'll be right next to your opponent, so you can still lay down the pressure. And also, like, if your opponent is blocking, you don't want to do the Heavy Slash version, because you know they can't hit you out of that. So you can just do the Slash version, but you want to put some space in between it, so they don't counter you, because you're unsafe on block after you do this. So put some time between, and then do the top, just to to catch them off guard. And if your Tandem Top is blocked, you could always Roman cancel to go for an overhead, and then keep your pressure going. Or to even do the fast cancel and then keep your pressure going afterwards. Next, we have our Iron Savior. Now it's a long range low, and it's unsafe on block, so you don't want to throw this out just carelessly, because you will be countered. So usually you want to use that as a combo finisher for the hard knockdown. But also we could do an instant overhead if it does get blocked. So we just want to Roman cancel forward and then do the kick afterwards. So we can land that to keep our pressure going. So we can just keep our advantage. Now also a cool thing you can do. I want to take off that block. If it does hit, and let's say you're doing your regular stuff, and then you finish with the Iron Savior, you do your combo afterwards. If I can land it, there we go. So yeah, if your opponent does happen to get, like, if he blocks all the rest of everything, but he doesn't block this part, then you could, after your Iron Savior, you can just do the kick and then keep the combo going. So that's something cool to keep in mind. Next, we have Mirage. As I've said before, but the patch, you can cancel your special moves into after you do Mirage. So you basically get a further projectile, or you could even do some of that. But yeah, other than that, it's a effective side switch. You can even do close slash and do the side switch afterwards. So that's something cool to keep in mind. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I've gone over everything that's best used for so far. And lastly, we have Lust Shaker, which is this move right here. I like to use it for if my opponent is blocking, because it does tons of chip damage. And look at that. That's a ton of chip damage. So if your opponent is low, then you could always just throw that out. And if you want to get closer to your opponent, if you just want to, I don't know, start with that for some reason, you could always use your Mirage first and do that afterwards. And another cool thing, maybe I didn't mention this with Mirage, but if you do your slash after you do the hit the kick button, if you slash button like right afterwards, you can do the Lust Shaker. See, it's kind of hard to do though, because they're in the same motion. So if you hit after you hit kick, you go immediately to slash, then you go to a Lust Shaker. And the same thing even works with Iron Savior. But I can't do it consistently. It's kind of like a Potemkin's thing with his Karma Cancel, in a way. So yeah, if that's the way you're more comfortable of doing the moves after the slide, then yeah, you can just do it that way. On to our overdrives. First up, we have Winger. This is invincible on startup. This is a good thing to do if your opponent's applying pressure on you while you're getting off the ground. So you can do it on wake up and be safe, like a lot of other overdrives out there. And anything else I can say about that? Oh, you can cancel it off of the Mirage. So for some reason you wanted to do that, it's possible. And lastly, we have Septum Voices as a fast startup and fast recovery. So if your opponent blocks it, you are at the advantage if they do block it. And also, you know, it can be used as a combo starter. So yeah, let me try it again. You can combo off of this. I mean, there won't be that many situations you get it like that, but it is possible. Another thing you do is you do your Iron Savior afterwards for a little follow-up on damage. And let me just show you what it's if they block it. So if they block, you do have a pretty big advantage, so you can follow up with attacks. Because the startup is fast and the recovery is fast. And that's a combo for the cool kids. And that is my guide to Millia Rage. Leave a like if this video has helped you in any way, and subscribe for daily fighting game content. Thanks for watching.